Hello again. In this chapter, we're going to practice what we've learnt so far and do a little bit more work with servlets so that we can start building the real application for our website. So the project is going to be a website for a restaurant, and in due course, we'll be building code that allows users to order food to collect from the restaurant. I want to just point out a couple of the classes that I supplied in the starting workspace in the last chapter that are going to be useful for the task ahead. First of all, in the domain class, there is a class called MenuItem. This class defines each item of food or drink that's available for purchase from the restaurant. It's a very simple Java class. It just has some different fields and some getters and setters. The only other thing that's interesting in here maybe is that there is a toString method, and we're going to be using that in a few moments. There's another class here called MenuDataService. Now, this class is simulating a database. I'm pretending that this is a service class which is talking to a database and is retrieving the items that are on the menu. Now, I'm not going to talk through this class in any detail at this stage. Quite a lot of what's in this class is actually going to be useful for later on in the course. But for now, I just want to point out that if you call the getFullMenu method, that will allow you to retrieve a list of the items in the menu, which is a list of those menu item classes that we've seen. So the task ahead of us is going to be to build a new servlet that will list all the items from the menu on a web page. I'm going to suggest you just show them as an unordered list and that you use the toString method of the menu item class to output the relevant items. Once you've built the servlet, I'm going to suggest that you make that servlet act as the home page for our application. To do that, you're going to need to put some entries in the web.xml file, but to make it the home page, you need to provide an empty servlet mapping. Don't put a / in your servlet mapping, just leave it empty. Okay, well, I'm going to suggest that you pause the video and have a go at this exercise. If you get stuck, press play and I'm going to do a full walkthrough on this video. Or alternatively, you can go and look at the closing workspace for this chapter where there will be all the code for the full worked solution, so you can compare your code to mine. If you get this working, well done, just go straight on to the next chapter because that's the only thing that's going to be on this video, the walkthrough of how to do this exercise. So pause the video now and give this a go. So I hope you have given that a go. We'll now do the walkthrough together. So the first thing we'll do is create a new servlet. So that's a new class within the servlets package. And I think we'll call this one ViewMenuServlet. Okay, we need to make sure that the class extends HTTP servlet. And because there's some boilerplate code that we need, the service method, the first two lines of it, I'm going to cheat and copy and paste those from the Hello World servlet. So let's just copy, in fact, the whole of that method. We'll put it in, and then we'll change the print lines in the middle. Let's just make sure we've imported HTTP servlet. And that's okay, that's looking good, it should compile. So instead of these print lines here, what we'll need to do is go and retrieve the list of menu items from the service class. So I think before we start any of the print lines, let's go and get an instance of our data service class. So it's a class of type MenuDataService. I've just pressed Control and space to import that. We'll call it MenuDataService, and we'll instantiate that in the normal way. Now we can call MenuDataService.getFullMenu. That was the name of the method. And that's going to return a list of objects of type MenuItem, I think they're called. And we'll call that MenuItems. Okay, we need to import the object type list. Make sure we pick java.util and of course import MenuItem as well. And unfortunately, that's a name that's used elsewhere in Java. So let's make sure we pick the version from com virtualprogrammers.domain. Okay, so now we've got a list, and what we want to do is to output some information to the browser, but iterating through this list to produce the various bits of data. So we'll start with the HTML tag and the body tag. Let's change the H1 to, well, I think we'll go for Ricky's Restaurant. That's the name of our fictional restaurant. And I think then what we'll do is put in an H2 tag. Let's do that here. And let's put in here the menu. Okay, so at this point then, we want to be iterating through the list of items. So we'll want a UL before and after the list of items. So let's put the starting tag in there and the closing tag in here. That's the unordered list tags. Then we can do a standard Java loop. So for each menu item, which we'll call menu item, in our list, which is called menu items, what are we going to do is an out.println, and we're going to print out, first of all, an opening li tag, then the menu item, and because we're going to use the toString method of that menu item, we can just print it out as it is like that, plus the closing li tag. And I'll just put a semicolon at the end of that line. And I think that should be our servlet complete. That should print out the menu to the user's browser page. So let's go and edit the web.xml file then, so that we can assign a URL to this view menu servlet. I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to do some copying and pasting. So our servlet, which we need to define first of all, this time the servlet is going to be called view menu servlet. And it's using com virtual programmers servlet's view menu servlet. And then for our servlet mapping, and I'll copy this one at this time. So our servlet name is view menu servlet. And we want the URL pattern to be empty. That will then be the home page of our application. So that should be everything we need to do. Let's run the project and check it's working. Now the project I can see here is already running, so we'll make sure we stop it first and then restart it. And then we can go to our browser. And instead of going to hello.html, we'll just go to localhost 8080. And there's Ricky's Restaurant and the list of all the items on the menu. I'll just check that the hello is still working as well. It should be. Yes, it is. That looks good. And that means we've got it working. I hope you got it working as well. If you did, well done. And I'll see you when you're ready in the next chapter, where we're going to be learning about forms, how we can submit data to our server from the browser. See you soon then in chapter 4.